Welcome everyone, daily.dev episode number 42. This does mean that we have been doing this consistently for about 3 years and a half with this episode, if I'm not wrong. And today, of course, we'll talk about AI. AI and developers, is AI good, is AI bad? So before AI will replace them all, we want at least to make this live event. And today I have really 3 special guests. I know them all personally, all 3 of them. I met one of them in person. You can try in the comment to guess which one I met in person. So quick sound check. Are you all there? And did you enjoy the intro?
That
was really
intro
awesome.
was so over and weird.
Yes, so I heard that intro for like 20 times, but still it's a great way to get started. So yes, and hi everyone. Say hi in the chat and tell me where are you from. I see also fans of different peoples. For example, here I see Dojo, of course. Perfect. Nice, amazing. So we are all here, and I'm really enjoying these sessions. And of course, AI has been, let's say, the protagonist of the tech world and space for I think for about 2 years, at least 1 year and a half. I think we can all agree with this. And I'm very, very interested into today's topics because I also create like presentations about AI. So really, really curious about today's questions. Quick reminder to send questions in the chat because we will have 3 sessions, and at the end of each session, we'll also have a quick 5 minutes Q&A. So don't be shy, ask anything you want, and the speakers will reply either during the presentation or at the end of the Q&A. Where are you from? From France. Hey, Timothy, I'm from Berlin. I've been in Berlin in less than a month. Yes, tell me where are you from? Perfect. Afghanistan. Yes. Nice. So, welcome everyone. And before we introduce you properly one by one, I'm sure that most of you are already famous and well known in the tech space. Quick question, which is like, does any of you ever use the daily dev? And you want to give a honest feedback? I don't buy it, but I would like to know if you ever used that. What's your opinion if you have it? The dev is not from Microsoft. Let's see.
Sure, I can start by the way.
Sure.
Yeah, I use it once in a while, sometimes more, sometimes less. Perhaps because I'm also a moderator in the AI community there. I have to say, like, there is some FOMO, not being, for example, on X. And so it's hard to give up on some of the known platforms, right? But I do feel like there is a good moderation in daily dev, so I strongly recommend. But at the same time, like, it still can't like replace everything, for me at least. So that's like my main feedback. It's interesting if it could have, and I'm sure it has the potential to. But right now, it's hard not to also, check other places as well. Hacker News, for example.
Yeah, thank you so much, Itamar. And of course, just thinking that it might replace something, like since I don't know if we can consider ourselves still a small startup because now we are about 30 people. We are trying our best. Kudos to all the engineers; they are absolutely mind blowing. I'm here just to make some noise, but they are doing the actual and current a lot of job. Yes, thank you, Itamar. Okay, okay. We can start. Okay, so let's kick Itamar and Tejas. I'm sorry, and let's stay with YK. Let's remove. Okay. Okay, I'm so happy to have you finally here. I don't know if this is your first time on the Monthly Dev. Maybe
Yeah, I think
not.
it's the first time.
It is. So because we made many collaborations, but not on this platform. So I'm sure that most of people already know you. So okay, we met, of course, because of his YouTube channel. We had, I think we consider him a friend. We make spaces, we make many activities. We never met in person, but we'll fix this bug at some point. No worries, we'll keep traveling around the world. You are now a senior AI developer advocate at Sourcegraph, if I'm correct. So
Yep.
please give yourself an introduction and give us like a trailer of what the talk will be about.
Sure, I'll try to do all of that. And I hope my audio is okay. Hey everyone, it's good to see everyone saying hi and everything. My name is YK. I've been a developer advocate officially for a couple of years, at a few different companies. But I've been doing developer advocacy as a discipline for several years now, for a very long time. Mostly on my own. And Sourcegraph, we make two products. One is Code Search, which is a search engine for your code base, and the other one is Cody, which is an AI coding assistant. And I help people understand the concept. I help people kind of navigate this AI evolution. I'm really passionate about it. I've been passionate about AI, way before ChatGPT, so it's good to be here.
Perfect. So, what is your presentation about? And I love the title; it's very catchy.
I appreciate it. So, the title you can see, is AI replacing software engineering? First of all, it's a kind of a difficult question to define. I'll try my best to clarify as we go. And, the whole theme to me is interesting. You said this is about AI for developers, good or bad. It's like asking, is fire good or bad? I mean, it's a tricky question.
Yes. But the goal here is just to stimulate the curiosity and get you here, so you can listen to YK. So that was my goal. I hope I made my part. So YK, best of luck. Around 25 minutes, and I'll be back, and we'll have a Q&A session. Okay. Best of
All
luck,
right.
man.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Fran. And what I was telling Fran earlier was I want to make it as interactive as possible. Take questions as we go. I'm not sure what the latency is like with YouTube and the platform we're using for streaming this, but we'll see. I have one eye on the chat, so feel free to say hi and I'll see it. Okay, so the talk is about like I said, is AI replacing software engineering? Let's get started. So when I ask this question, for a lot of people, the piece of tech that comes to their mind is called Devin. And they claim to be the first AI engineer. That's a debatable statement. We can debate it all we want, but the results they showed is, I would say, pretty impressive. So what they showed is on this particular benchmark, SWE bench, which is a set of issues on open source repos, Python repos in particular. And they were able to show that they were able to, solve 14% of those issues using their independent AI agent. And the way it would work is, pretty much it would take an issue, read a description, and then try to solve everything on its own. If it passes the tests, then it's counted as being able to solve that issue. And more recently, we have news from this provider called Factory Code Droid that were able to show, at least in their announcement, that they were able to do the same thing, but even with a larger subset of SWE bench. That was about 19%, a little bit more than 14%. So either way, whether you believe this number, 19%, or the 14% number, it's really impressive. And that, I think, makes a lot of people careful and fearful too. Is it coming for my job, basically? And to actually, directly answer this question right now, not quite, not anytime soon. And the way I like to think about it, one of the ways I like to think about it is like self-driving. If a company came out today and said, we created a revolutionary self-driving technology, maybe the first driving AI, self-driving AI that's able to drive 20% of the public roads or 14% of the public roads, I would say, okay, that sounds pretty impressive, but that's not close to replacing driving per se. If it's like 99.99%, then I would say, okay, it is replacing driving. So we're not quite there yet in software engineering when it comes to the state-of-art results. But again, it's pretty impressive. It's understandable that people are worried, but we don't have to worry right now. And the fundamental problem, with these AI systems, when it comes to AI trying to replace software engineering, let's say, is that it doesn't quite think like a human, not the way it's built currently. So what I mean by that is, it's good at certain things that humans are not necessarily good at, but it's terrible at certain other things. I like to think of it personally like an alien intelligent species, let's say an octopus. If you look at an octopus, it is really intelligent, but it is intelligent in a very different way from humans are. And same thing with AI. Again, it is great at, let's say, producing, syntactically correct Python code, but it doesn't necessarily know what to, produce exactly in the first place, how to solve these problems in the first place. So coming back to, SWE Bench and Devin and everything, it was great that they were able to solve, 19%, 14% of those issues, but it doesn't say anything about the quality of the code. It doesn't say anything about how they went about solving them, and if they went about solving them in a correct way, in an efficient way, in a way that's maintainable, and all of these things. So that's what AI is missing. Okay, I'll pause a little bit here. I'll catch up on the chats. Let's see what we have here. So I see that someone is a fan of Cody. It's good to see that. Someone's saying, I don't think AI will replace software engineering because only humans have a heart to beat creativity that no one can beat. Interesting comments. I can't be replaced. Someone is saying there's no way AI makes the same dumb mistakes I do all the time. I guess that's a joke, but there's something there. Okay, so we'll continue here. So, when I say AI doesn't think like a human, it's like an alien intelligent species, I wanted to give a concrete example in this talk. And that is from my recent experience of, organizing and hosting this San Francisco meetup. And, I hosted it yesterday, but I did a lot of work kind of leading up to it. And one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to analyze the survey response results. In particular, one about where did they come from? Like, where did the people hear about the event? And the other one about did they want to try Sourcegraph Cody, which is our AI coding assistant. And I tried to upload it as a CSV file on ChatGPT, and then asked it to analyze it using Python code, or I might not have explicitly said Python code, but it decided to use Python code, and it wrote some code to analyze it. But then initially, it didn't quite work that well, and that was because it wasn't handling the data correctly. It should have really looked at the data manually through their own kind of cognition instead of using Python to analyze everything. So there was a lot of kind of missing pieces. And then after I explicitly asked it to analyze it as textual data, this was what it came up with. And if you examine a little bit, you'll notice that it's not quite right. The colors, you might notice that they're too bright. They don't look pretty. You might notice that the labels at the top are kind of covering each other. They don't look perfect. So that's what I mean by, AI not knowing what the human wants exactly. The human needs to tell AI how to kind of, in this particular case, handle this data, how to massage it. Like as a human, I don't want to have these like non-responses shown in the graphs. It doesn't make sense. Technically it's correct, but that's not what we want. And as a human, I know that, let's say, cerebral valley and CV are the same thing. I needed to tell it that they're the same thing, even to get to this point. Twitter X, same thing. And so even to get to this point was a lot of work. And this was not even perfect. And after that, I needed to kind of tell it to improve in specific ways. And this was the much better result I was able to come up with. So in this particular case, you could say, oh, it replaced software engineering in this particular, small toy example, because I didn't have to write Python code. But then as a human, software engineer, I still needed to go in and exactly know what I wanted, exactly know how to handle this data, and tell AI exactly how to fix these problems. So is AI replacing software engineering in the future? In a very long time, who knows? But in the short term, in the foreseeable future, I don't see it happening. All right, I'm gonna pause here and then I'll go back to the chat. Let's see what we have here. Did Hammer replace workers? Right. AI is created by humans. For a long time, maybe not forever, but for a long time, humans will have to oversee AI doing things. Right. So there are a couple of kind of interesting points there that I'll try to extract from these comments. One is this analogy about a hammer, and the other one is AI having to oversee, or humans having to oversee AI. So with the hammer analogy, the better analogy I like to use is the analogy of accountants, with spreadsheets, Excel, Google Sheets, stuff like that. Accounting became much easier. So at that point, people could have said, is Excel replacing accountants? With the same question as this one, is Excel replacing accounting jobs? But it turns out it didn't quite. It changed the way accountants worked. But if you look at, from the data I saw actually from the meetup yesterday, the number of accounting jobs increased since Excel was invented. So that's kind of one data point to look at. And humans having to oversee AI doing things, I think we'll get into it in a bit. But let's finish this up, and then I'll go back to the chat and try to answer some questions. Okay, so the better question to ask, instead of is AI replacing software engineering, is AI replacing software engineering jobs? So, to kind of clarify this question a little bit more, the question is, okay, if you look at the job market for software engineers in 2020, 2021, it was plenty. You can visualize the area above the line as the number of jobs that were available at that point. And let's say the area inside the circle as the number of software engineers that are looking for jobs, that are available in the market, all of these things. So in 2020, 2021, it was pretty easy for software engineers, relatively speaking, to get a job, keep a job, high-paying job, all these, good things. But in 2024, we can all see that it's much harder. There are fewer software engineer jobs available. So the question here is, in 2027, let's say, is it going to be like this, where the market is even harder than today, or like this, it's easier than today, or maybe even easier than 2020, 2021, some people might say. And the first thing I should say is that this is a tough question to answer. And AI is not the only factor that goes into this. I think it's rare for a company to say, we used AI, we incorporated an AI, code AI tool into a workflow. Our software engineers became 30% more productive. So we're going to lay off 30% of the software engineer. That's rare. That's a very rare thing for a company to say. More realistically, they look at the holistic picture of everything. They look at, okay, how is AI affecting the way software engineers work? Do we need to build more features? Do we have more demand for a product? How is the funding situation going? And all of these questions. So it's not just AI that affects this question. And when you look at AI by itself, you could actually make an argument either way. One argument you could make is that because AI is making each software engineer more productive, let's say again 30%, then companies need fewer software engineers to hire in the first place. That's a possibility. But the other argument you could make is that because the cost of software goes down, there will be more software being created, and therefore there will be more software engineers. And that's actually what happened with accounting and Excel and these computing tools. So, which one is the correct argument? The truth is no one knows. We can speculate all we want. I tend to bias towards a little bit, AI affecting the software engineer market, slightly positively, but not always, all the time positively in the same way, everywhere in the market. So if I were to guess, I would put, the 2027 line around there, basically slightly better than 2024, but not quite as good as 2020, 2021. But again, that's just a guess, and I could totally be wrong, but that's my best educated guess. Okay, so this is a question I get a lot, regarding this. Should I go into software engineering? If someone asked me in 2016, should I go into software engineering because I can make easy money in 2016, right? Then I would have said, yes, go ahead and do that. That's a reasonable thing to do. If you just want to make some, money in 2016, go ahead. If you're interested in that, do that. But in 2024, the situation is very different. If someone asked me the same question, like, should I go into software engineering just because I can make easy money? I would say, okay, think about it. Be careful, because the market that we see, that we saw in 2020, 2021, that was a really good market. We might not see, anytime soon. We might not see ever. So, I would never encourage anyone to go into software engineering. If you're passionate about it, if you feel like you can make a lot of impact, if you can kind of enjoy the process of writing code and everything. But if you're just going in there just to make easy money, I think you're going to have a hard time. That's the only thing I would caution against. So if you're already in the software engineering industry, if you're already a software engineer, you might say, okay, what can I do as an individual in this AI revolution, what's happening with AI? I would say two things. One is to learn effective prompting in general, whatever AI tools you decide to use. So it, to me, comes down to three things: intention, context, and details. So intention is exactly what you want. You need to be able to describe exactly what you want, exactly what type of results you want. Again, this comes down to AI not knowing what humans want in the first place. And then you need to provide as much context as possible that's relevant. So that might be, documentation, copying and pasting stuff from documentation, or it could be, something from your code base. It could be something from a Slack thread. You could do it in an automated way, but if you want, you can do it in a manual way too. And then you want to provide as many details as possible. If we're talking about code, do you want your results in an entire code block and in an entire file format so that you can copy and paste it, or do you want it in bits and pieces so that you can apply it yourself, or using one of the AI tools out there? And then combining all of these factors, you need to obviously try over and over again, change it slightly, add more context, maybe make it slightly shorter, simplified, and then see what you get. This process takes honestly a lot of work in a way, but once you get used to it, you're going to be really efficient. The other thing I would recommend for anyone who's already in the software engineering, who already decided you want to go into software engineering, is to learn to use some of these AI tools. So I like to think of it being in these two axes, speed and accuracy and complexity. So if you think about code completion systems, auto suggestions, things like that, they're fast, but they're a little bit dumber on the dumber side. They're not the smartest tools. But if you look at AI coding agents, they're slower. You might need to wait for them to finish their work, but they're a lot more accurate, I would say, and more complex than some of these other tools. One thing I would emphasize here is that these AI coding agents can't do everything currently, and they don't replace these, let's say, previous tools. GPT-4, Claude 3, they're still relevant. Code completion systems are still relevant. And these AI tools together don't replace more traditional tools for software engineers either. They might replace part of Googling, part of Stack Overflowing, but they don't replace them completely. So what's changed? At the end of the day, the fundamental skill of being able to find, learn, and use the right tools for the right jobs, that's always what the software engineer has done. With Google, Stack Overflow, GitHub, Cody, whatever tool you decide to use. And these AI tools are just an addition to that. These are additional tools in your toolbox, and you need to learn to use the right tool for the right job. Okay, I'm going to close this talk by saying one product and one company that combines all of these different AI tools for coding is called Cody, as I mentioned earlier. You can try it out at cody.dev, and feel free to join our Discord at discord.gg/Cody as well. And thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, okay. This was a really great talk and great presentation. It really gave me very, very good vibes. We have some questions, so let's just jump straight into them. We have 4 questions now. Do you mean that AI does not think like humans because of problem solving?
Right. So let me explain what I meant by that. And to clarify, we're talking about the current way these AI systems are architected, and the way they work. Large language models is they're pretty much glorified statistical prediction system. We have a bunch of words, and then we're predicting what's the statistically most likely result. Statistically most likely next word after that. It's slightly different, with reinforcement learning, because we kind of fine tune it against human feedback. So it's slightly better than that, but still fundamentally, it doesn't have a logical, thinking capability that humans do, and it doesn't have desires that humans do.
Thank you. We have one more by dnan3s again. As machines replaced humans in the industrial revolution, I do believe AI will replace us. The question for me is, how can we adapt to basically get ready for the future market demands? Where is the market going, in your opinion?
Right. So I think I already mentioned a few of those things. Learning to prompt engineer, or learning to prompt well. I would say prompt engineering sounds funny, but learn to prompt well. And then the other thing is learn to use these AI tools really well. You need to understand not necessarily how they work on the ground level, from a scientific level, but understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and learn to use them well. And one thing I would add to it, and they apply no matter in industry you're in. And the third thing I would add to it is human skills. Being able to have good empathy and good people skills, good communication skills. They'll never go out of style. So as long as you kind of keep all these 3 in mind, you should be able to kind of keep up with the market demand.
Thank you, Weke. And of course, we got many compliments. We just need to move faster, but it was a great presentation. Job options that are promising in the next 5 or 10 years. 10 years,
Right.
I have no idea what will happen.
Yeah, this is a tough one to answer. I mean, again, if someone wanted to say, I want to go into software engineering, I'm passionate about it, I wouldn't stop them, because I think there will be software engineer jobs in 5 to 10 years. Other than that, I would say, ask yourself, what are you interested in? What does the market, need? And this is not like specific to AI, but it's always, been kind of important to be able to answer this question. What's the intersection of what am I interested in? What does the market need? If that's plumbing, go ahead and do that. If you're good with hands, if that's software engineering, go ahead and do that. If that's design or art, go ahead and do that. It's a question that you need to answer for yourself.
Yes, for sure. I have an electrician coming here tomorrow. They will get $500 for 1 day of work. So that's also not bad, I think. So trying to earn the record for the first ever website to be created by a young person alone. Should I continue to ask for help? I don't know what are they asking, but probably they are trying to build a website. This is what I get from here. Not sure.
Yeah, I mean that's a strange question. If you want to earn the record, just build it. Say hello world, record earned, and then you can go ask for help.
Yes. And then last one, it's not really a question, but maybe something we can discuss for 1 minute. There is a slight legal danger of using these coding helpers in a proprietary code base. What's your take on this?
Right. So there's, that's definitely a good question. I think it comes in 2 ways. One is the code, is the AI code system training data on my code base? And then the other one is the output from the tool, is it legally usable? And I would say do research on both of these aspects, on the particular tool that you're trying to use, because chances are, no matter you use our product or someone else's product, they clarify that.
Nice, great. Before we go, just last thing, YK, someone said that the link you shared may be expired, but I'm not sure. So maybe you can double check it. And in case, we'll share it again in the chat and we'll put that in the description. So if you can check it out, we have maybe for this invitation for Cody. So if you can double check it, okay?
Okay, I'll check that.
Okay, nice, perfect. We are on time. And hey everyone, I see great people here, best jobs, health, food, plumbers. Not that it depends. Okay, nice. I want to remove this one and this one. Okay, if you find the link, you can share it with me or in the private chat, and we will share it again and put that in the description. Thank you so much. I'll keep dreaming about meeting you in person, but one day we'll make it. Thank you, and it was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Bye. Okay, now let me invite on stage Tejas. Hello. Tejas is a super expert in many fields. He's writing books, public speaker. I mean, when he's not at a conference, people are worried, like, where is Tejas? Like, we have the opposite, like this developer advocate. You worked at many big companies. You're having your own company, great communicator, great story, great personal story. Tejas, I probably missing something. Please introduce yourself and then we can get started, and I'll be glad to attend your presentation.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Tejas. I've been building on the web for over 20 years at places like Vercel, Spotify, Zeta, and more. Currently, I'm a developer relations engineer for Gen AI at DataStax. And my whole goal at this point in time is to make AI engineering more accessible to everybody. I think if you, and we'll get to this in the presentation, but really the statement I want you to hear and understand is that it's very young. A lot of people say that it's sort of like the internet was just invented. It's very early. Like if my CEO Chet said it so well yesterday. He said, if you remember back when the iPhone was new, we're sort of in the stage where Angry Birds was new and cool, and so it's just the beginning. And so in the beginning, I want to be able to invite everybody in and show them how they can get involved.
Great. Thank you so much. And if you want, you can start sharing your screen and let me know like what is your talk about. I think the title was
Yeah.
"You Are an AI Engineer," if my memory is not failing me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the title is "You Are an AI Engineer," and it's a little bit pointed. It's a little bit on the nose, but I will ask you at the end. This question may seem somewhat uncomfortable to some now because they say, "No, I'm not. I'm not any engineer." But I will try to convince you might be, and then I'll ask you at the end again, and we'll see what your answer is. So
Perfect, because there is no question mark in the title, so you need to be
Yeah.
careful already. Best of luck, Tejas. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah, hey everyone, it's so good to be here with you. YK, what a great presentation that was just now. I'm sort of self-conscious to be going after such a hero in the industry. As I mentioned, my name is Tejas. That's pronounced like contagious. Don't worry, I'm not contagious. Even if I was contagious, this is over video, so I guess you're fine. And as I mentioned, I've been building on the web for over 20 years at various places, and some in a consulting fashion, some as an employee, some as whatever. And today I'm at DataStax, making Gen AI accessible to everybody. So the title of the presentation is "You Are an AI Engineer." And the reason I'm doing this is because if I ask you, like you watching, right, like, are you an AI? And leave a comment, let me know. Are you an AI engineer this time? Or do you think you could be one? And even just a simple yes or no would serve to give some really great information. And I'm going to try and convince you that you might be able to be one. Okay, like the title of this whole streaming thing is AI good or bad? We'll answer that together. I won't answer it directly because I don't have a crystal ball, but we'll get a feel of it. Okay, so let's start by talking about an AI engineer. What is that? It's a brand new job title. I met some people from Hewlett Packard yesterday who came up to me and were like, "Yeah, that's my job title now. I'm an AI engineer." The reason I'm giving this talk is because a lot of folks, when I ask them, like, "Hey, do you think you could be an AI engineer?" The answer I usually get is no. I don't think I can because I don't have a background in linear algebra. Right? Because I didn't go to university, because I'm not the best at math. I don't know anything about data science or machine learning. There's a big conflation between data science, machine learning, and AI engineering. And I'm here to tell you that these things are very different. This is not just me, and you shouldn't really just listen to me because while I appreciate Francesco introducing me as an expert, there are smarter experts than I. And so the working definition for AI engineer comes from people who are way more qualified to comment on this than me. Specifically, I'm talking about my good friend, Sean Wang. Some of you may know him as Swix. He wrote an article on his blog, Latent Space, also a great newsletter, titled "Rise of the AI Engineer." And this is a clipping from his article. And in it, he has this beautiful diagram of what AI engineering actually is. And I think let's pause and take a moment and look at this diagram because it is so profound. It is so extremely profound. What you see is in the middle, there's a line that is the API. AI engineering comes after the API. So AI engineering is what happens when you communicate with a machine learning model exposed over an API, right? Behind the API, you've got machine learning research that's actually doing training, doing evaluations, that's like testing the model's output. And you have research and performing inference and maybe generating synthetic data and what have you. This is all machine learning and linear algebra. And indeed, you're probably not qualified for that. That's totally fine. We're talking about AI engineering. So when you take a model that's trained and some MLOps person hosts it, maybe over HTTP, sort of like the ChatGPT or the GPT 3.5 API from OpenAI, when you query that API and use it to solve a problem or build a logic chain or generate code, that's when you're AI engineering. In fact, if we think about the term engineering, what is engineering? If English is your first language, you'll probably be familiar with engineering as the application of technology to solve problems. Engineering is fundamentally problem solving, right? So applying technology to solve problems equals AI engineering. And if that's true, then when we apply the specific technology that is AI to solve problems, that's AI engineering. Okay, so like Cody, for example, from Sourcegraph, it's the application of AI. It's probably talking to some API and giving you code suggestions, sort of like GitHub Copilot ++. That's AI engineering. There's AI engineering that goes into building something like Cody. Cody can be thought of as maybe an agent that would help you. That's AI engineering. And on top of AI engineering, as you can see in the diagram, is full stack engineering. Now, don't take my word for it. I'm Francesco says I'm an expert, and I'll take it, I'll own it. But again, there's people far, far more qualified than I. If you look at the bottom here, there's this really great quote that says, in numbers, there's probably going to be significantly more AI engineers than there are machine learning or large language model engineers. In fact, this distinction is very cool. One can be quite successful in this role, and here, pay attention to this last part, without ever training anything. Okay, and that name at the end there is probably one of the leading global experts on AI engineering. I mean, Andrej Karpathy was the former VP of AI, I believe, at Tesla. Either invented or really did a lot of pioneering work with self-driving. And was also one of the co-founders of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, right? So if anyone's an authority in this whole space, it's Andrej. And he makes this distinction clear and also agrees with it. So this is the working definition for us with AI engineering. So let me also highlight this from the article. What Swick says, he says, this will likely be the highest demand engineering job of the decade, right? And so that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about this. AI engineering is something that you need to know is accessible to you, because the truth is, look, I can't tell you, actually I can, with a high level of confidence, tell you that, yes, AI will take jobs away. I mean, it already has. I think if we're realistic, a lot of jobs have gone away because of AI. Like even the telephone operator, this used to be an actual job, but it's gone away. Like we don't have phone operators anymore. We have machines that do it, literally. A computer, like the term computer was a person with a job, and their job was to compute things. It was not a machine, right? This begs the question, okay, what do we mean by AI? And this is important because the term AI is really abused today, because when you say AI, you get a bigger valuation. When you say AI, you raise a bigger funding round. When you say AI, like Sundar Pichai at Google, like what was it, 121 times, right? Have you seen the Google summary of I/O? It was just basically AI, 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 right? So when you AI, things happen. Let's look a little bit into the details of this term and understand it. In the case of telephone operators, that was indeed AI. But AI has many types. There's rule-based AI, which goes back decades, right? If we think of rule-based AI, this was basically what replaced telephone operators. This is the same, I'm using quotes here, the same AI that exists in Pac-Man, the popular video game, where you're this little mouth eating things, and when you eat some cherries, the ghosts that are chasing you, when you eat the cherries, they turn blue and they start avoiding you, right? That's AI. That's literally like artificial intelligence. The only difference between that and like ChatGPT is that the rules were programmed ahead of time by developers. So we put the rules in, like, hey, when you eat the cherries, then do that. But it's AI regardless. With Gen AI, the rules are not put in by programmers, they're sort of inferred. Okay, that's the key difference. There's also predictive AI. And this is similar to what YK was talking about with being a prediction engine. If we rewind all the way back to 1906, that is like a century ago, even more so, right? 1906, there was a scientist by the name of Andrei Markov who published a paper putting out a statistical model that came to be known as the Markov chain. The Markov chain then later evolved to be used in natural language processing to predict the next likely word given a single word from a larger data set. If you think about predictive models and Markov chains in today's terms, we all interact with them daily. Like on your iPhone, just above the keyboard, there's this like auto suggest thing, right, with 3 words. That's a Markov chain. It looks at the last word you type and suggests the next one. In fact, there's this like experiment we do on social media where we just like tap the suggestion repeatedly and you come up with sort of a nonsense sentence. That's because it's a Markov chain. The key property of Markov chains is that they are memoryless. This is literally called the Markov property, where it's not like a big context being used to predict the next thing. It's just the one word being used to predict the next word. There's no concept of memory. Okay, so that's rule-based AI. That's predictive AI. And these are indeed AI. They're just not the trendy AI that leads to the large valuations. That one is generative AI or Gen AI. And this is where all of the hype is today. what I want to show you is what led to Gen AI. And I think this is really like one of the biggest, failures of our generation. And I'm surprised people aren't talking more about this, which is Gen AI came from a paper published by Google. And it's so very sad. This paper published by Google is called "Attention is All You Need." And literally, like, all the leading scientists on this are Google. It's everybody by Google. Whoa, it just opened my email for some reason. So this paper called "Attention is All You Need" was what laid out what is called the transformers architecture. And from the transformers architecture, continued to lay the foundations for what became GPT-2, GPT-3, and later ChatGPT. Let me just pull up that paper for you again. And I want to show you the secret sauce behind LLMs is really not that complex. So this is the paper from Google. And if you look at the diagram, obviously I highly recommend reading it. We'll put links in the chat, but this is how it works. And what you'll see is a text string is converted to an input embedding. And this is the secret sauce, multi-head attention. So what this architecture suggests is you can literally pay attention to the context of a set of input tokens. So not, my screen is not in the presentation, great. In any case, not just a word, but the surrounding words, etc. I am sharing my screen. Francesco didn't put it in the chat. Whatever, we'll share a link. In any case, this paper was published, and when it was published, OpenAI took it, built GPT-3, ChatGPT. Thank you, Francesco. And from there, what happened was when ChatGPT was made public, you could do something called RLHF, or reinforcement learning with human feedback. This human feedback by 100 million users from ChatGPT is ultimately what led them to fine-tune that model and keep it growing. This is all machine learning stuff. You don't need to know any of this to be an AI engineer. The point I'm trying to make is that's how we ended up at Gen AI today. Okay, let's talk about Gen AI real quick with the time we have left, because this is really important. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm bouncing between screens here because there's quite a bit to do. So with Gen AI, I think, we're well familiar with the fact that there are plenty of problems with Gen AI, right? Like, you may have seen Google's rolling out these AI overviews, and they're just highly problematic. I don't know if you have them in Europe, but here in the US, where I am in San Francisco right now, literally, like, someone typed into Google, how many cigarettes should a pregnant woman smoke per day? Now, if you're watching this, we all know as human beings, the answer is 0. In fact, not just pregnant women, human beings generally should smoke 0 cigarettes, but it's pretty bad for you. And if you're a smoker, I empathize with the fact that you want to stop and you can, but it is bad for you. With Google's AI overviews, it said pregnant women should smoke 1 to 2 cigarettes per day. And it said it confidently, it hallucinated that. And that's a huge problem because we trust it. And with Gen AI, you can't. So again, if we come back to the title of this event that Francesco has organized or daily.dev has organized, AI good or bad, it depends how we use it. And it's important that we see it for what it is, a machine that's likely to be wrong and hallucinate, okay? So hallucinations, huge problem. Second problem is the finite context length problem. And what that means is with the large language model, you can only fit about 2 million tokens in its context window. A token, if you're not familiar with the terminology, is equivalent to like 1 English word, give or take, right? So what can you build with like 2 million English words in context? Not so much. I mean, you can definitely do some great stuff, but you will run into problems eventually. Like, you can't build like an Iron Man style Jarvis that is personalized to you, that can come up with a new chemical element like he does in Iron Man 2. You can't do that with a 2 million context window. And finally, the knowledge cutoff. So a model like GPT 3.5 stopped, like its training data stops in like 2023. So if I need to go outside and I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, should I take an umbrella with me? ChatGPT will literally go like, I have no idea. My training ended in 2023, So that's a huge problem. How do we make this real time? And this is where some AI engineering happens. And again, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because AI is going to take jobs, and it will not take the jobs of those who know how to build it or build with it. It's already taking quite a few jobs otherwise. So I want to really not just teach you this to preserve your employability, but also teach you this to help you not be ahead of the curve per se, but to help you ride the wave and show you that this is accessible to you, okay? So how might we solve these problems with Gen AI? There's many ways. One way is you could just like fine-tune or train your own model, but that is so extremely expensive, right? It's expensive because you've got to collect a lot of data, You've got to clean the data. You've got to split the data into training sets and testing sets. And then you've actually got to like run the training, which is so computationally expensive. You need like hundreds of thousands of dollars in GPUs and compute to do that. But that's not all. Like once you've trained the model, it gets even more complex because now you've got to do what's called evals. You've got to actually like talk to it and make sure it's putting out like appropriate text. And like most of the time it won't, because you've got to fine tune some parameters and like just set them to the right numbers, right? So this is a loop that is extremely expensive and extremely painful. And at the end, you may not even have a good model for it. So this fine tuning is not going to work for the vast majority of us unless we have like $100 million and like all the GPUs in the world. So what can everyday businesses and developers like us use to fix these problems? Well, there's a technique called RAG. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And indeed, I think this is pretty much how Kodi and GitHub Copilot and most things are built. If we explain this, it's actually in the name. Retrieval, meaning you get data, you get real-time data. In the case of GitHub Copilot, it will read the source code you have and the code from your repo. So it gets data, it retrieves data and uses it to augment or change the text generation from a language model. So language models do text generation. You just get some extra data and give it to the model as context and say, hey, ChatGPT, here's some context. Now answer my question. So again, in the case of should I take an umbrella, you basically retrieve the weather data for today, give it to context, give it as context to ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, here's the weather prediction for today. And then you ask, now, should I take an umbrella? And it will reliably give you the answer. RAG has some components. Specifically, like you need data. You need that real-time data. You need the weather from somewhere. You need to use embeddings models because RAG works really great when you search for similarity. And we'll talk about what that means. But an embeddings model fundamentally is a machine learning model that can take natural language and turn it into a big list of numbers. So for example, if you're watching me here on the video, what you'll see is if you give an embeddings model the word hot dog, then it will take that, turn it into numbers and plot it on a big grid, like in space. And hot dog in space will be like here. And then if you like take the word strawberry and also run it through this model, you'll get another like number and it'll be like in space, it'll be like right next to hot dog, you know. But then if you run a word like car or aluminum through this model, it will generate numbers, but the numbers will be like somewhere else, coordinates. They'll be somewhere far away, right? So it tends to give you numbers that are closer to other numbers in the similar direction. So embeddings just turn natural language into numbers that are close or far, depending on if they're related. Okay. Finally, you take these big lists of numbers, these are called vectors, and you store them in a vector database. And typically, these go hand in hand with RAG. And we'll look at why in a minute. In fact, I've been talking way too much. Let me just show you a demo of how RAG can really help build powerful things like Kodi and Copilot and all of this with AI. So I'm going to share a different window. In fact, I'm going to share my entire screen. Let's just do that. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and I will share my screen. And what we'll do is we'll explore a nice RAG flow together. So let me present my entire screen, and we'll play a bit here. Okay, so what we've got is this is a tool. It's an open source tool that we own at DataStax, but it is open source. It's got nearly 20,000 stars on GitHub. So if you want to leave a star, I won't stop you. But it's open source, and you can see that I'm running this like locally, like on my device, right? So you can run it locally if you want. You can run it in the cloud. I don't care. But I want to show you how RAG works. Okay, so let me just show you the pipeline here. So what we've got is a chat input. This is your text field. This is what you want to talk to ChatGPT about. So you could ask here, like, should I take an umbrella, for example, right? And this is all you. This is just your text. We also take an embeddings model, and we say, I want to use text embedding 3 small. This is the name of the model, and I'm going to give it my OpenAI key. And I'm going to connect these to some type of search engine. We're using Astra DB search because that's the one I build. But you can honestly use whatever you want. In fact, we have many ones. You can choose whatever you want. So with Astra, you just choose a collection name. Let's call this, I don't know, stuff. And you notice they're connected. Okay, so we take the input, we take the embeddings model, and we send it to the search engine. The search engine gives us results, and we convert them into chunks. And the reason we convert them into chunks is because we don't want to give like a big portion of text to the large language model and overwhelm that context window, because still people pay with tokens, you know, so we want to be mindful of that. Okay, we break it into chunks. we then take those chunks and use it to do some prompt engineering or prompt generation. So this is what the prompt looks like, using this context. And context here comes from the database, as we saw. Answer this question. And the question is the user's input. So this is the search results from the database, and this is the user's question. Okay. We take that prompt and we give it to OpenAI. Specifically, we give it to GPT 3.5 Turbo. We get an output and we render it. That's it. This is RAG. We just get some stuff from a database, write a prompt, and we're good. So let's actually see it in action. Let's play with it. And let's ask who won the Oscar for Best Picture in 2024? And let's see what it says. Obviously, we don't have the data, so it should say, I don't know. In fact, it probably will say, I don't know. Let's see what actually ends up happening here. This is the moment where I start to panic and go like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a demo. It may work, it may not work. But I'm pretty sure it'll work unless, oh, there we go. And so it totally hallucinated some nonsense result. In 2024, the Oscar for Best Picture was awarded to the film The Midnight Sky. Let's verify that. So let's go The Midnight Sky and see. This movie came out in 2020. So there's absolutely no way that it won that Oscar. So it's hallucinating. Let's fix that using RAG. So what we saw here was the read flow, right? You generate some text, you rather enter some text, search for the results, etc. Let's ingest real-time data. So down here, I've got the ingestion flow. And this is just a visual. I want to show you how this stuff works. That's why I'm using this. But you can also just write JavaScript fetch requests if you want. Okay. So I have a URL loader. So I could put a URL in here. We're going to read the text contents from this URL and break it down into some chunks. We're going to insert those chunks into my database, and we're going to generate embeddings from them and also insert those. So let's go find the blog post about like the Oscars. I think it's here. This is the Oscar 2024 winners. That should have my, yeah. So let's take this web page and just like insert it into my RAG store. So we'll go back here and I'll just paste that URL. Okay. So now I'm going to hit play. Actually, let's make the collection. Let's call it stuff. I don't know if I have this collection, so I'm just going to go to Astra and make sure. Okay, I don't have it. So I'm going to create. Do I have it? Let's check. You need to have. So this is my database. This is what's going to store my text content from the website. Yeah, okay, I do have it. Cool, and it's empty. That's perfect. So what I'm going to do is go to Langflow, and I'm just going to hit play. And what's going to happen in Langflow? Again, this tool is called Langflow. We're reading the URL. And we broke it into chunks, we got some embeddings, and now we're ingesting it into our database. And in 3.93 seconds, it's done. And if we go to our database and just reload this page, what we should see is just a bunch of like text records that came from that website. So yeah, look at this. It just read a bunch of stuff and it put it in here. So now, using our RAG flow, we can literally go to the playground and ask again, who won the Oscar for Best Picture in 2024? And so what it's going to do now is actually talk to the vector store, as we looked at, right? And here, Oppenheimer, this is actually correct. In fact, we could do even better and be like, what are some highlights from, the Oscars 2024? And let's see what it says. Text generation obviously does take some time, so this will take maybe a few seconds to respond here. But let's see if it hallucinates anything. There we go. So here's some highlights. Oppenheimer won 7 Oscars. 7. It knew 7 exactly. Emma Stone won Best Actress for. So all of this is up to date and current. Absolutely incredible. And once I'm happy with this, I click on the API button. I get an HTTP endpoint. And if I call this from any front end, React Native, iOS, whatever, it will give me the data. In fact, I can copy this as curl and go to my terminal, paste it, and if you're familiar with, I'm going to paste this curl request. And if you're familiar with any bash stuff, if I pipe it to JQ, it should format it as JSON, right? And it will give me the response. So that's Langflow and that's RAG. And that's how we can really fix the problems of hallucination. This is true AI engineering here. Okay, let's come back to the presentation and start to wrap up because I realize I'm almost at time. But I could honestly talk to you about this stuff like all day. In fact, if you want to stick around or follow me on Twitter or something, I'm more than happy to continue the conversation. Okay, so that was the demo. Let's continue to wrap up. So that's where we are, but I think we can do better because we solve the problem of hallucination, but let's come back to talking about the future and answering the question, AI, good, bad, whatever. We just saw how we can use AI for good, right? Like if somebody's struggling with something like real time, I think, the weather example, the Oscars is maybe a playful example, but what if you're building an e-commerce store people like, right? And you don't need any personal identifiable information. You don't need their name. You don't need their zip code. You don't need to spy on them. You can do it in a data safe way where you just look at their purchase history anonymously and using RAG, be like, hey, just here's other products you might like. You could really change the web for the better through business intelligence, through RAG, using large language models. And of course, this can generate code and so on and so forth. So the future looks really bright. However, some jobs will go away. And I hope in like this 25 minutes, I was able to like teach you some things that you can use in your AI engineering career. Okay, let's wrap up. So what did we talk about? We talked about AI. We literally looked at what types of AI are there: rule-based, predictive, generative. We talked about even the term AI engineer, and we distinguished it from machine learning and AI engineering. And we showed you how that's not the same thing. So as I wrap up here, the last question I have for you, with knowing all this, knowing that you don't need a machine learning background, you don't need linear algebra, do you think you could be an AI engineer? Let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tejas. It was a great presentation. You also handled the screen sharing with AI, so it was not me, but it was absolutely automatic. 3 quick questions, and then we can go with Itamar. Is the person presenting a real person, or it's an AI also? Because now we have doubts.
As a large language model, I'm not qualified to answer this question. Well, but that's the other thing, like there's a lot of doom and gloom. A lot of people say, oh, AI is gonna, like, what was it? His name, Hinton, said there's a 50-50 chance that in the next 20 years, we're all going to be slaves to AI. I don't fully agree with this doomer mindset, because as of this point in time, and also for the next few years, AI cannot affect the physical world in a big way significantly at all. And robotics is the real bottleneck. So if Boston Dynamics and OpenAI start to become best friends, then maybe we can worry a little bit. But I'm not so frightened by this like super intelligence threat for the next few years anyway.
Yes, and I hope that in the meanwhile we'll not just watch keep just watching AI just destroying us. We have 2 more. No, this one first. Can I be an AI engineer without experience in software engineering?
That's a very good question. I think you can, but I think you'll be very limited, because you'll just, at this point, it's like social engineering. So social engineering is like getting the outcomes you want by speaking, by communicating, by manipulating people. If you want to be nefarious, you can still be a social engineer without knowing maybe the same language. So yes, but I think it's quite limiting. I think experience in software engineering is quite important.
Yes, I think you can have this approach, but probably at some point you will want to dive deep into software engineering. So it's more like a top-down approach.
Yeah.
And then you will see. But you can even start in this way. I don't know. I start not like learning the basics of guitar, but just to playing a couple of songs, and then if this will help you like to get interested, why not? Are we in a point of time that we can say that AI is our code error corrector, grammar corrector, or pair programmer?
Yeah, 100%. I think, in fact, we're in a point of time that we can say AI is that and more. One thing I didn't show that I maybe should have is I run a podcast. We have, as you know, Francesco, we have very long episodes, but right now a lot of the podcast is run completely autonomously, right? So like if somebody schedules a call, an AI agent will go like search their entire history and like create a nice discussion outline and attach it to a calendar event. Like it's not just a corrector, it runs my podcast. So yeah, I think we're definitely in the time where it was just an error corrector has passed. AI is more capable now. But yes, to answer your question, yes.
Perfect. And yeah, people were asking for the link of the app earlier, and now I think also the link of the podcast. So drop those links in the private chat, and then we can we'll share them later. Perfect. I'll just share this. And then I think that we have to go on the next one. Tejas, thank you so much. We made it also with the hotel connection. I'm glad. I'm honestly glad. And yeah, if you can stay at the end, we'll say bye. Otherwise, thank you so much for staying. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye. Okay, perfect. We're ready on the third talk, the third presentation. Of course, last but absolutely not least, Itamar. I think we already talked a couple of times. I don't know if this is the first time that we actually make like a live event together, maybe, but we had some calls and some things. So Itamar is a CEO of Codium AI. So Itamar, please introduce yourself and then please let us know what is the talk about.
Sure, I'll introduce myself, but first I want to say that maybe OpenAI are not partnering yet with Boston Dynamics, but they are partnering with Figure, which is also like a robotic company. And similar to that, I will share a few more insights about things that I heard. I will also show some live demo, and of course I'll try to answer or give some thoughts about if statement is good or bad. But yeah, I'll love to introduce myself. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Codium AI, previously 2 times CTO of a VC-backed startup, including an exit. So I'm relatively technical, so people can geek out, although I'm the CEO, and usually like we, say some bullshit. But I also know how to talk about tech, and that's what I'm going to focus today. At Codium AI, I'll probably share a bit more a bit later. Although I will focus on answering the question and talking about the advancement of AI and software development and things like that. But in short, what we do at Codium AI is trying to help developers harness AI and deal with the thing that they like less doing, which is testing and code reviewing, and those things that are critical, but yet not what we would like to do daily. I believe more writing code and creating stuff. So we're harnessing AI for that purpose. So that's shortly about myself. Mostly my background is in machine learning.
Perfect. Thank you. When you want, you can start sharing your screen and maybe also tell us what is the presentation about. So then I can let you start. And of course, be sure to drop your questions below, because at the end we'll have a quick Q&A session, and then we'll close this event about AI, the 42nd episode of the Demon 3 Dev. Let's see this one. Is this correct?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's correct. It's intentional.
Okay.
So I heard that one of the speakers, I think was Tejas, said that LLM are just spitting the next tokens. I'm not sure we're not doing the same. I think actually I kind of loaded what I want to talk about in the conversation, and probably from there I'm just running with my thoughts. So I'm not sure my answer would be much better than Claude or ChatGPT. So first of all, the answer here by Claude, it's a complex question. It can't be answered with yes or no. With powerful technology, I have posed both positive and negative impact. And then ChatGPT is a bit more verbose, trying to list all the benefits and good and bad and all that. And I think it roughly represents my LLM in my brain. I agree that we can't really know where is it going. Are we going to see less jobs or more jobs? But I think it's relatively safe to say that the software development role will evolve, like we saw many others, and I think we'll mention in the first talk. So by YK, so what I recommend is not trying to put too much emphasis is AI bad or not, because it's probably going to develop. It's even part of our evolution process, in my opinion. So I would think how could I always benefit and mentioned by Tejas, maybe how to become an AI engineer, or if you want an AI empowered developer. So I wouldn't skip the role. I would think about how I can if I love this profession, how can I always like keep on top of things and evolve with the role? So that's like my immediate like response to that. If yes no statement. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to talk about, like a bit about in my call, in my talk, is a bit about how like I think I'm going to share in a minute. Let me do it right now. So I'm going to talk a bit about how I think software development is going to progress, okay, and how I see like software development Gen 1.0, what we experienced until 2020 plus minus, how we experienced that. And then maybe how we're experiencing it in 2023, 2024, how I think it's going to look like in 2027. And maybe that will help us to also answer that question. And then I will show like another benchmark in the beginning. YK presented the benchmark that startups are competing again on, like SWE software engineering bench that a few startups were reminded. But I'm going to talk about share some information about another benchmark called Code Contest from Codeforces, that other more like major competitors competed on, like DeepMind and OpenAI, and share with you some of the results from there, and then maybe like show you like a few demos relating to how I imagine the world and that competition that I mentioned. And finally wrap up, like try to wrap up what I took from the last 3 sessions in mind. Okay, great.
Thanks. Best of luck. Bye, Tamar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I think like roughly speaking, I think this is the classical software development what we're seeing right now on the screen. Like I think typically like what we see developers starts with is some spec. It could be like a simple ticket or in Jira, or maybe much more elaborated. And then later on, I think what's happening is that you usually go to implementation, right? Like at least in the classical way, like in most time, like you need to finish the implementation. And then when you have time, then you go and finalize with testing. That's the x-axis, like the time, and then the y-axis is like executability, like spec or not, implementation is test is somewhere in the middle. And I think that practically, like most developers, what we would think that what we're getting today is not actually changing too much. Like the paradigm shift is not that big, if at all. Basically, what we got in Gen 2.0 software development is coding assistant. So you get, for example, the ChatGPT or Copilot coding assistant helping you in the implementation. Coding AI is one of our tools. It's the ID agent, the one that you can download for VS Code and JetBrains. It's mostly like a coding assistant for testing. I'll show you later another tool that we open sourced called Cover Agent that is also focused on testing. But still, I think like we find out that we are slightly more efficient. It could be even 10%. It's quite a lot, by the way, if you think like a huge workforce. And I think, by the way, the more junior you are, you're actually benefiting more, and the more senior you are, unless you did a lot of work to, I think like to make yourself adjust to these new tools, you probably benefit less. But it's still, there's no paradigm shift. And the question is like, are we going to keep seeing, this kind of software development, like assistant that actually helps you doing what you're already doing? So before I jump to Gen 3.0, let's talk a bit about, other options to do development, like for example, TDD, test-driven development. So I would say like taking by the way, the x-axis and putting it now on the arrows, then you can say that maybe another way to develop that, like some people would say that it's amazing, but other might say it's very hard to practice. And then maybe it's not so amazing because of that. It's the TDD. So you start with the spec. You don't have to again, but you can do like elaborate or not. And then you can, from there, generate tests. They will probably won't be green. They will be red. They won't work. And then, because the implementation is not there, and then move to the implementation, write that implementation, and then like one by one, make those tests green. Okay, so that's another way. And the question is, for example, would Gen 3.0 the next generation of software development would enable TDD, or would it actually move us from doing the classical development to the TDD? So the way I believe it's going to happen is actually Gen 3.0 and AI that is going to enable that, is going to enable any flow, any type of development process that we would like to have. Like it could start from the spec, it could start from the test, it could start from the implementation, and then we're going to have like kind of an agent or flows, agent like it's a buzzword, or to say like kind of a well-designed flow that includes a lot of or a couple or many LLM calls. The LLM calls can help move between different steps of the flow, or apply different techniques or inference on each step of the flow. And I think we'll see that those agents and flows actually helping us move from any place to another in this diagram. Now, that's what I call like drive-by AI. Like, don't repeat yourself. But in the past, we would say like don't repeat your code. I think, by the way, Sourcegraph, we talked about it earlier, are really good at trying to help us, not have repeating code in your code base. But what I'm saying here, drive-by AI, is that let's not repeat ourselves, in this process of writing implementation and test and spec. Let's have AI help us, writing just once. Let me write a part of my spec, and then we'll get part of my test and part of the implementation. I'll continue writing part of the implementation. Then I'm going to get automatically part of my test and part of the specs, and so on. The thing is that I think this is a bit too idealistic, maybe a bit too hard to achieve as is. Like if there is really one agent that can actually help you with all of that, then maybe probably to some extent, like it replaces us. But I think a more realistic approach would actually be that we will have specific agent doing like specific flows, okay? Or if you like, you can remove the word like the name agent, and just say that I think AI will help us in automating certain flows specifically. Like, and for example, I'm going to show a bit later one of our tools at cody.dev called Cover Agent. But what it does is this like edge, like it takes an existing test suite and helps you automatically like enhance that test suite in an agentic like mode, like in a flow like mode. You're going to see that, and we're going to see like, for example, other agents and flows that takes like a specification and tells you, oh, you kind of missed a lot of specification, and we looked on your code and we looked on your product, etc., and here's an enhancement, etc. And tools that are good in like helping you, for example, transform from Java whatever to Java 17 or so, like of the implementation, etc. So I think this is the Gen 3 like actual like process we're going to see, and I think like humans are going to be very important. Yes, like we're going to see developers that are going to be much more efficient. They're going to do much more like the same thing we saw with the cloud transformation, that one person can do so much things with each one of the hyperscalers, the cloud, that you could do before with GeoCities or whatever, your own server. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here. I'll take a look a bit about part of the questions right now, just before I move to like additional demos. Okay, let's take a look. So one of the things that I think were asked before, and I promised to answer, is like, are we already seeing? Can you say that AI is kind of like our error correction, grammar corrector, pair programmer? So that's exactly, I think, where we're going to. And by the way, I think what I'm trying to say here is that different aspects of these, like different roles, probably would have different UI, different UX, different RAG that was explained before, different guidelines, different like guardrails of the agent, of the flow. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about later. I'm going to talk about one of the like two of the possible flows in agent, and how so differently they were. We needed to like design them to answer different things. So I think like, yes, definitely we're coming into that era of AI as my error corrector, etc. Okay, let's see if there's anything additional use companies allowing use of AI. So like give me input, make suggestion, give useful. Okay, so about allowing AI like being applied. So I have to say that now that we have like a very large, like a variety of customers from different markets and different size, from Fortune 100 to, to teams of 10, we see different approaches. That's really interesting. Some put more focus on, we allow certain models. Some put more focus is our code being sent outside of our sandbox, etc. And I think like right now, like the solutions that you can find out there are quite diverse, in almost any requirement or demand that I see from almost any client, even the banks, etc. could be answered. So definitely, like you should just like look for, understand, like do like internal like thinking in your company. What's your requirement? What's your legal and compliance team are agreeing, and then like you will find a solution. Okay, great. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to some examples before I jump, and I want to talk about like the next thing I want to discuss with you is about alpha codium, and talk about other things like were mentioned here about attention is all you need, etc. But before that, let's talk very shortly, like do a really quick demo. So what I want to show you right now, I'm going to take, like, because we're short in time, I'm going to take like a silly example called bank account. And on the left, I'm showing like Codiumate is our ID plugin of Codium AI. And what I'm going to do, like starting something really simple, I chose to focus on the entire class. And then I can call a bunch of commands. I want to call the quick test command. And then what's going to happen, I'm going to get some sanity check, like some basic testing, okay? And once it's done, it's intentionally quite basic. You can, if you want to, go into the chat and ask more questions about it, but I want to keep it as that simple. And once it's completed, I can come here, paste it, and then like simply run it. In a second, I can run them and see they pass, etc. Okay. Now it comes the interesting things. There are various of tools that can enable you to generate more tests, like the test suite command. But I want to show you like a flow, an agent that I think you guys like that's like where we're going to, what I'm trying to present, Gen 3.0. So now I'm going to introduce like another tool that you can download. It's open source, totally for free, Cover Agent. Please go check it out. I'm going to call it like this. I'm going to ask the Cover Agent, please take a look on this class, the bank account, and also look on the coverage results, how I'm going to run it, and please pass the 95% automatically. And you can choose different models to run with, etc. Now, what's going to happen, something really interesting. By the way, Meta, Facebook, described that they have such a tool internally that they run it in production, and we enable anyone to go and try it out. We kind of re-implement what Meta did with our own thinking. And what's happening right now is that many tests are being generated, and each one of these tests is checked, like is being validated. It's actually checked. Does it run? Does it like actually pass? Okay, it's regression test. I'm not going to talk today about having more than a regression test because of lack of time. Does it actually add to the code coverage? So it's like a really powerful tool, like an automated flow that does all that. And eventually, tada, we increase like step one by one. Like you can see here, the desired coverage is being fulfilled and more tests are being generated. By the way, this tool enables you to input like data from different kinds and even prompt it, etc. Okay, we're done after a few rounds, but I'm going to stop it just because of lack of time. Okay, so that's like what I presented before, like a flow that generated many tests to complete the coverage that I wanted on the edge of testing and adding more tests to that, if you remember, like in the slides before. Okay, to kind of summarize, I think we talked about the attention is all you need, and I think that Tejas talked about it. Sorry if I mispronounced or forgot who exactly talked about it. So I think if you remember, just before we had transformers, the big thing was like guns. We were really excited about it. We had like a generative model and adversarial model. But when that transformer like came, like was mentioned, attention is all you need, the generative part became so powerful that we actually dropped our adversarial part. We dropped like the part that actually verifies the correctness and helps the models to train better, etc. And one of the reasons is because the generative models became so good in text and images and audio. But the thing is that text and images and audio, you don't necessarily need an exact output. Like, please give me a porcupine that rides a horse and there is a moon behind. It doesn't really matter exactly where's the position of the horse and the moon, etc. You'd probably be very satisfied with many of the results you can get, for example, Midjourney or whatever. Like, and the thing is that when you're talking about code, that it needs to be in high integrity. Either it works or not, at least like the critical bugs or not. And that's why we believe that actually the generative models, the LLM, like yeah, they're kind of spitting the next the next token, like was mentioned before. But I don't think that's the problem. Like I'm also spitting like tokens one after another. Okay, the thing is that we human have a process. We have a flow. We generate some lines, we check it, we test it, we pass it to a friend. So we need another like component that helps us to verify the integrity and have a full process. The process needs to include testing, reflection, spec matching, etc. With this like idea in mind, we introduced AlphaCodium. It's another open source. You can go and try to get it. And I'm trying also to be like a good like dev advocate. So I would say, I don't mind if you give a star. I hope I did it correctly. And so I'm not going to go over an entire like design of AlphaCodium, but basically we try to design a flow, repeat what we do as developers, how we iterate in our thinking. We call our brain once over a time. We start with the input, we reflect on the problem, we try to think how we're going to test it, which solution should I start with, how could I going to test that specific solution, let's try to generate that, let's iterate if it works or not, let's fix it, and etc. We try to repeat that, and actually we did really well. Like not we, the AlphaCodium did, and it actually like did much better than other results, like other competitors that are actually not some other cool startups that were mentioned, but DeepMind and OpenAI and Salesforce start to compete. Even AlphaCode 2 came out. AlphaCode is by DeepMind. AlphaCodium is by us, Codium AI. And even then, they even fine-tuned their model on the problem, and still we did better. And the idea is because we didn't try to like brute force ask the model, please give me a solution. No, we try to generate a flow. And that's like comes down like, I don't want to go over the result. Please go and visit our like AlphaCodium website, and you will see a lot of tips on how to be an AI, like different tips for using it as becoming an AI engineer. But mostly what I wanted to tell you is this is how I think things are going to evolve in the next few years. AI is going to be really cool, but it's going to empower us, help us to automate some of the flows that we don't really like, learn how to use these tools. You will become much better and evolve with the profession. Yes, the computer that like the human computer that mentioned in the beginning did like that profession evolve to being using the computer, and I think like at least for many years it's also what's going to happen here. So just like use that and empower yourself and this like being passionate about software development, because there's many years that you can actually use AI. Yeah, thank you so much. I finish here and love to take any question.
Okay, I have an issue with the camera, but I'll try to fix it soon. No problem. But I hope you can still hear me. Let me try to fix it. I can fix it. I'll try to.
Oh my God, I think I'm being left alone. So let me try. Okay, back.
I'm here.
I didn't manage to say a joke.
Turn it off. I had to turn it off and turn it on again. So that's how you fix things.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much for your talk. We have a couple of questions, and then I don't know if you already answered them, because I was checking that you were checking the chat from time to time. I don't know if you replied to this.
Yeah, sure. I can elaborate about that.
Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Do you see companies allowing to use of AI in a software dev cycle, knowing that their entire code base needs to be input to make suggestion and code reviews useful?
So actually, like, if you think about it, like, when you exploit AI on those things that you probably either, like, the world's divided into two, roughly speaking. Don't catch me if you are in the third part. Either you don't do enough testing and code review because you hate it, or you don't want to focus on that, or you do a lot of testing and code review and you still hate it, or you find it tedious and you find it useful, but you would prefer to focus on other things. Of course, there's 5% that really enjoy like focusing their time on testing and code review, but I'm sure like they would prefer like just spending a bit of time. Like, the interesting thing is that AI, like LLM specifically, if you brute force them with inference, like a simple inference, they might not work. But if you design a flow, like check for the term flow engineering. Kapati also related to our work that we talked about it. We designed a flow on how you use AI with guardrails and well-designed, like I presented with Alpha Codium. You can actually exploit AI for testing and code review, and you probably find out that your company like won't have too much issue with that, because code review, like, it's like using AI the best way you can. It doesn't generate new code. It helps you remove the risk of the code you wrote yourself. And testing, like, again, it's like, it's not code that is being run in your application. These are things that are run aside to make sure your code works. And it actually helps you improve the quality, helps you like in things that you probably spend a lot of time. So that's perfect fit. Using AI on testing and code review. Okay, that's our, by the way, sorry for shameless plug, that's our focus on coding AI. We also like help with code generation, code completion, but we believe that that's the best place to harness AI and target it to.
Yeah, and of course, since we are in a hurry, I'm not getting all the compliments, but you're getting like many compliments in the chat. But you can read the chat; it's full of compliments. Thank you so much. We have one more question, which is running quantified AI models locally using tools like LM Studio. Is it a good idea in terms of privacy and performance?
Okay, like generally speaking, like quantizing AI model is like you can do another episode 43. Is quantizing AI model good or bad? Yes or no? Right? It's like it's not an easy question. I'm serious. It's not an easy question, because it's like a general question would be like performance versus accuracy in general. So I would say like it's really dependent on the task. When you're talking about code completion, so I think it's actually a really good idea to quantize model, because you literally like reaction, like performance, like speed is very important. You get a suggestion, you want it or not, but further than that, like it doesn't get, like, it's not that bad if the suggestion like in 70% is accurate and 30% not. You just continue on. It's not a big thing. You do care that it won't burn your CPU or GPU or your budget, because it runs so many times and you want it to come back quickly. But when you're talking about code review and code testing, like generating, like, and doing a flow for that, it's relatively quite hard. Okay, like you need high accuracy. You would prefer to prioritize accuracy rather latency, or maybe even like electricity burning and usage, etc. Just let's do it like as good as possible once, then running like million side of code completion. So, and that, like, you need to quantize really well. Like you need to do a really good job, and like your benchmarks, and how much did you hurt the accuracy when you quantize yourself or use the quantized model. Okay, so that's my answer. And like, it's a really short one. It's a hard question. Good one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Itamar. I think that we can, if you have any more questions, you can drop them, but I want to invite Tejas back just for 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Tejas, welcome back. So thank you so much. These were really great presentations. I also learned a lot. Special thanks to Itamar. I think we have been into AI for probably longer. I don't know, at least in terms of like he was running the company, and I really like that. I think I shared all the links that people asked you. We shared everything, in this style, always open style. Nice. So did we answer the question or not? So is AI good or bad?
There's no answer to this question. It's both.
It was a tricky question.
It's not good or bad. It's good. Yeah, it's good and bad. So
it can be good and bad. I like this take. Also in the chat you can type good or bad, and see. I think that for sure it will change our lives, but we will change too, because we also been changing. I mean, we are biological. We might be very slow, but we'll try to adapt as we did, for smartphones, for internet, and so on. We'll try to keep it up. I don't know for how long we can keep it up, but we'll not give up that easily. That's my take.
Yeah,
What's your idea?
And we also learn and iterate rapidly. For example, I think a great analogy to, like, especially as we approach AGI and then ASI, so super intelligence, like I think it's an innovation that's close, at least at this point in time, close to like air travel. Like air travel at some point was novel and it was revolutionary. You can literally like go from London to New York and stuff. And in the beginning, it was unsafe and planes were falling out of the sky. And planes were colliding in midair. And there was this crazy Pan Am flight that collided with, I think it was a Cathay Pacific. This is like historic, like on the runway, like this plane was about to take off and one came to land, and like all this stuff happened back when it was new. But what did we do as human beings? We were like, this is super dangerous. We need to introduce a lot. I live in the European Union. We need to introduce a lot of regulation, and we need to make it safe. And we did. And now flying is, orders of magnitude safer than traveling by car or by foot. It's the safest way to travel on Earth. And I think with something like AI, AGI, ASI, we'll make mistakes. People will lose jobs, maybe lives. But one thing that I'm sure about is, as human beings, we will iterate and we will make it safe and good. I think that's my take. I'm more of an AI optimist, but I don't have a perfect crystal ball and I don't see the future. So I'm not qualified to answer this question, but that's sort of what I see.
Yeah, the only thing I can share that I have a luxury. I get the chance to help with that. It's something that I don't share too much, but if you think about it, at Cody.ai, we focus on what we call code integrity, like making sure that your code is well tested and well reviewed. This is a bit subjective, like, and eventually, like, it comes to even to best practices and culture. What does it mean, like, to have good code? So at like our vision that we don't talk about too much because we are we want to be like serious and help right now and not just like in 5-10 years. But looking forward, we definitely like want to make AI aligned and help the developer, like make sure that its entire impact is working according to the developer's expectations, to its request, etc. as AI evolved. So I think like the more people, like, as a kind of a secret mission or notion, like we see now from SSI, right, by Ilya, like joining, like aligning AI and like making it better for humanity, etc. Then we also will see it like actually helping developers. And in my opinion, again, I saved it to the end and didn't talk about the beginning because it's a bit of philosophy and I wanted to be practical in the first part of my talk.
Thank you so much. And yes, I was trying to find a comment by Abdullah. I'm using Cody.ai currently, and I'm loving it. This is just for you, Itamar, of course. And yes, so thank you so much. It was a great session. We touched also different topics from different point of view. This is why I really loved these three presentation. Also, huge shout out to YK for sure. We are a bit overrun, but it's okay, I think. And I hope that we answered all your questions. We had this very last one, a very, very quick one we can take about ethics on AI. Now we can stay here for 2 hours, but let's try to make it like a quick one. So ethics on AI environment. Could the question good or bad be taken from this perspective? I don't know, what do you mean by AI environment? For the environment or like an AI environment? Kalisman. I don't know if you get the question.
I don't, if it's on the environment or even if it's not, honestly, the answer is we don't know. I think that's really the most honest answer. I think we do know it's definitely bad because it consumes way more energy either way, right? But also air travel. I love this air travel example because it was also really bad. And now we have the A350 and the Boeing 787, 2 aircraft that are made for fuel efficiency. And I think things just get better. Yeah, so that's my best attempt at answering this question. Again, I may be wrong, but I tend to lean biased towards optimism a little bit here.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tejas, Itamar, do you have some thoughts on this?
Actually, I think I talked about it a bit before in my answer, so I don't want to overload.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much for coming. Really, really great presentations. We have the next episode at the end of June about community building too, but thank you so much. We'll probably pick some parts of your talks, so expect to be tagged somewhere also, just so you made a space with us. So, you know, sometimes you wake up and you find a notification from daily.dev. But yes, thank you so much. Of course, let's try to be optimistic. Let's keep an eye on AI. And we are done for today. Thank you so much. And of course, all of this has been possible because of daily.dev. So if you want, you can just try it out. It's free. It's a platform for developers. We have Itamar and the AI squad. So just feel free to check it out. I hope you enjoyed it. I see people really collaborative and engaging today. Bye-bye, everyone. And thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.